Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Learning Torah Lishma. I want to show a stark difference of how Hashem's equality works. What does that mean? For peasants, simple people, equality means everything's that each one is treated the same. Each one has the same type of rights. Everything is equal. And that's better than the tyrant, than that one has way more than the other. You understand? Which is what's happening today. And then another there is another type, which is you hone into the abilities of the man that's created first, and then he asked God to create the woman, and so God did. And he gave her special abilities, and together they complement each other. Fine-tuning a system that's equal but different. Some places it is equal, meaning it's the same, but in many places it's equal but different. And let me give an example of that. When you have a couple walking down the street, and all of a sudden there's a gangster that comes and wants to rob. Now, now who goes and protects? Who's in charge of taking the risk of really being hurt? To go and fight and be hurt in the fight. That is the man. Now, of course, a woman should also learn basic self-defense, but who really needs to know how to fight? A man, right? He has the testosterone, he has the bigger lungs, the muscle density. He is the one that's supposed to be able to protect his woman. Now, when it comes to in a marriage that that they have an issue, and let's say they go to a third party to try to help it. Hopefully, they go to someone good. But to tell when you're trying to solve an issue, the point is not to say you're wrong, he's right, she's wrong. That's for babies. That's a baby way of thinking of things. What's a person? What the person who's trying to mediate between the husband and wife, his focus should be what's the future. Let's focus on the future. Let's not focus on what you did, he did, and trying to match up who's right, who's wrong, and all that. Let's focus on the future. That's what they're supposed to do. You understand? Now, at that same time, when it comes to saying that a man that the person who's mediating, especially if he's an honorable person, he or she has to be extra careful, not, of course, by both, not to focus on that and focus on the future, right? But at the same time, there has to be an extra care not to say that the husband of this woman is wrong in front of her. Why? Because men, they are the woman wants to be machshav them. She wants to be able to respect them, and when she keeps hearing he's wrong, she loses the respect, and that the marriage is gone. It would be better that they didn't go to the therapist, and she tried to get him to admit that he's wrong for the rest of the life, but they stayed married and they took care of the kids, than going to the therapist and now getting divorced. Because the therapist kept on saying, he's wrong. Now, of course, he shouldn't be saying that about the woman either. But the difference is if he does, that really doesn't affect the woman in the marriage so much. She might get angry, her feelings might be hurt, but the marriage isn't affected in any way the same. It's way different because a man doesn't mind that he didn't marry this woman to look, for you know this chashivas. You understand this respect. He didn't do that. He married her because uh, of her piety. She's a virgin. She's beautiful. She's a nice person. You understand? That's why he married her. But if his wife gets things wrong, he doesn't mind that because he is the brains. As a man, he is the brains. So he doesn't mind that. So you see how Hashem made it in this complex way that there are certain things when it comes to a woman you have to be extra careful. You shouldn't be telling a woman like feminism. If you see someone jumping and trying to block you, you jump in front of your man and try to protect and you protect because you're just as good as a man. That is dangerous. That is she might get killed. That's the marriage could be absolved because she was killed. And then the vice versa in the same note, in the opposite, if someone who is the in-between between a husband and wife has to be extra careful not to degrade the husband. Rather, the focus should be the future. Really, even regularly, it should be the future. But there has to be an extra care not to degrade the husband, because if you do, then the marriage is gone. It doesn't make a difference that he admitted that he was wrong. You understand? And let's say it was true, but the marriage is gone. So, and that's another way how a marriage could be absolved. You understand? By a divorce, right? A person could either die, or it could either get divorced. So, this is something that people need to understand. I need to connect to the wise people that understand the differences and create a system that works accordingly, and certainly not people that are denying these realities and creating havoc. So this is important to understand, and I think it will be very helpful. Just seeing the dichotomy from one side to the other, seeing how Hashem's wisdom is not like us. We many times could start thinking like peasants and commoners. However, God's wisdom is aristocrat, a real aristocrat. You understand? He understands the dichotomy, the differences, and he makes it, and he purposely makes it that way, because if we were all the same, the world would be very blah. People, they wouldn't find something interesting and amusing about their wife or husband. There needs to be the differences, but the question is, how do you make differences and at the same time being able to blend it all together and it all fits? It's all a smoothie, That's what we have God for, and that's what he does, and we need to trust his word. The Almighty knows what he's doing. I love you, and Hashem loves you more.